Hey guys, Mike here, and in this video we're taking a look at two minis, the HTC One Mini and the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini. Both mid-range Android smartphones derived from their premium keys, the HTC One and the Samsung Galaxy S4. On a first look, the two are fairly close. They pack similar sized screens and ran Android on a Snapdragon 400 hardware. In practice though, they are quite different. Let's take these things mentioned above. Yes, we have 4.3-inch screens on both of them, but there's a TFT panel on the HTC and an AMOLED panel on the Samsung, and each comes with pros and cons. As a result, the Galaxy displays perfect blacks and vivid, oversaturated colors. The One on the other hand is brighter, thus more comfortable to use in strong light, and paints more natural colors but still vibrant enough. And then there's the sharpness. The One screen, with its higher resolution, displays sharper and smoother content, while on the S4 you can see the pixels if watching closely. In everyday use, that's not going to be that annoying though, but when having these two side by side, the HTC does take pretty much all the praises. When it comes to hardware, both pack Snapdragon 400 processors and the same graphics. The CPU, however, is higher clocked on the Galaxy and there's more RAM on it as well, and that, combined with the lower resolution screen, translates in better benchmark results and a snappier everyday experience as well, as you can see from the next couple of seconds. Of course, the software has much to do with that as well. Both devices are running Android 4.2.2, but each manufacturer skins the OS in its own way. On the HTC, there's Sense. The interface is snappy and looks quite nice, but plenty of changes are unintuitive and you're stuck with some things that have no reason to be there. For instance, you have to scroll vertically in the app drawer on the HTC and not horizontally like with most Android devices. Adding shortcuts on the desktop is way too complicated, and there's a clock always visible on the top of your app drawer. And then there's Blink Feed, that always occupies one of the only 5 home screens and cannot be deactivated. Samsung used TouchWiz on their devices, which is not without quirks. It keeps most of the standard Android actions in place, while adding some extras like the notification bar with toggles or the complex multitasking manager. However, TouchWiz tends to get a bit sluggish, and some of you might even consider it ugly. At the end of the day, you'll get used to either of these, and you'll be able to take your phone through all the daily tasks, like browsing, taking calls, chatting with your friends, watching movies and running games. The HTC One Mini is the better multimedia device here, not because of its screen, but because of the speakers and audio output. Two so-called boom sound speakers are flanking the display, and the sound they're pushing puts the S4 Mini's tiny speaker placed on the back to shame. Hear for yourselves. Still, with those front-mounted speakers, the HTC One Mini is not such a small phone after all. When compared to the Galaxy, it's larger and especially longer, plus thicker and heavier. But there's a reason for mostly all of these. For instance, HTC used aluminum and some plastic for their device, while Samsung goes all in on glossy plastic. As a result, the One Mini feels much sturdier than the S4 Mini. Oh, and if you're afraid that the S4 is going to scratch, and that's going to happen sooner than later, just get a protection cover for it, which by the way you should do for the One Mini as well. Here's why. The plastic lip around the screen is so small that the glass is going to easily come in contact with any surface when having the phone face down, and in time it will scratch, despite the Gorilla Glass 3 coating on top of it. Hence, protection is needed. Besides that, the One Mini is small because HTC mounts those boom sound speakers on the front. The longer body wouldn't be that annoying if HTC wouldn't have put the power button on top of the phone, making it uncomfortable to access. The button layout is smarter on the Galaxy, and since we talk buttons, we should also have a look at the main Android controls grouped below the screens on each of these phones. Things are pretty standard on the S4 Mini, with a physical home button and back-end menu capacitive controls, while HTC keep the solution we've seen on the One, with the branding in the middle and home and back tactile buttons on the sides. Not the best approach, to say the least, but you will get used to it eventually. All those being said, there are a few more things worth mentioning. For instance, the HTC One Mini packs a notification LED. Tiny, but still better than not having one at all, like the Galaxy. The S4, however, offers NFC and microUSB port with USB host support. And then there's the storage space matter. The S4 Mini comes with 8GB of internal space, with 5 of those available for your content, but can also take up to 64GB microSD cards. The One Mini only comes with non-expandable 16GB of storage, and 10 of those are usable accessible by default. Neither approach is perfect though, but the Galaxy does offer the more versatile solution. We should also talk about the cameras for a little while. An 8MP shooter can be found on the Samsung, while the HTC packed their 4 ultra-pixel camera on the One Mini. What's special about it? Well, the sensor itself is larger, and as a result the camera can capture more details per pixel, especially in poor light. However, resolution-wise, the One Mini only takes 4MP images. Both smartphones offer complete camera interfaces with plenty of modes, filters and manual tweaks. I for one enjoy the software on the HTC more, as it's more intuitive. And I must admit, HTC's Zoes have much to do with that as well. Anyway, here are the results. First, a selfie taken with the front-facing camera. And then a couple of images and clips. Oh, by the way, none of these offer video image stabilization, and that can be seen in the recordings. So, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below which one is better. In my opinion, the S4 Mini struggles with indoor images, but aces the HTC outside in good light. Still, these shots are pretty close, and so are the videos. That out of the way, there's one final thing to talk about: battery life. The two pack almost similar sized batteries, but on the S4 Mini, the backplate is removable and you can easily access and replace the battery if you want to. Besides that, the S4 Mini does tend to run longer on each charge, mostly because of its lower resolution screen. Either way, both phones will last through the day with low to average use. Alright, and with all this being said, it's time for the conclusions. A while ago I reviewed the S4 Mini, and at the time I considered it the most interesting compact smartphone of the moment, in Android's camp of course. The HTC One Mini is just as good. It looks better, feels stronger, and packs a nicer screen and punchier speakers. The camera is a toss-up, good indoor, average outside, while things are the exact opposite way with the shooter on the S4 Mini. Speaking of that, the Samsung is still the mini phone in this comparison and bundles things that can easily steer you towards it, like the microSD card support and the removable battery. At the end of the day, both handsets are very good, but have pros and cons. And you should pick between them based on what's more important for you. Of course, the price will have a role in this, and from what I know right now, the unlocked version of the HTC One Mini is cheaper than its rival, so keep that in mind. Anyway, I for one have a hard time deciding between these two. I like the screen on the One and definitely don't mind paying less for a device, but at the same time I enjoy the longer battery life and the smaller form factor of the S4 Mini. So I'd really like to know what do you guys think about these two, and what would you choose between them and why. Maybe you can help me decide as well, so please leave your replies below. I for one will end this clip here, but not before thanking you for watching and asking you to use those thumbs up and share buttons if you enjoyed it. That would mean a lot to me. Either way, thanks again and I'll catch you in the next video.